Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to our new lesson or new lecture based on the journey from the classical to postmodern philosophers. Our previous lectures were based on Milesian school. Milesian school. So, dear viewers, today we have the lecture about the Greek Ionian philosopher, the great philosopher. His name is none other than Anaximander. So we'll stick to Anaximander today. Anaximander. Who was Anaximander? Where he was born? And what was his father? And what was his profession? Anaximander, so let me rub it first. So you can, you need to give suggestions, you can. Anaximander's father, his name was Presidius, or we call Presidius. I will write here Presidius. Now, who was Anaximander? Anaximander was the great intellectual, the very cherished student of Thales. That means he was the first student who became the successor, the teacher after Thales. And who was Thales? Thales was the founder of Milesian school. And he was from the same Ionian place. And I will call it Ionian if we just consider this is Turkey. And there are different, like we have Dead Sea, we have here by Mediterranean Sea, and different coastal areas are there, and this is one of the coastal areas, intrusion towards the west and having nearest connection with the far west as well as the nearest one like Greek. So these were the colonies. So there was the dominance of the these Greeks. So we call them the Greek colonies. So he was from the Ionian, and the Miletus town, and the school was Milesian. So he is a Greek Ionian philosopher. And he was born in 610. He was born in 610. That means it looks that he was the contemporary of, one is Thales was a teacher, and we have this what we call this Anaximenes. He was the student, and also the Pythagoras. Pythagoras, he is considered to be the student of Anaximander. So three names I will write here. Here one is, and you can write Heraclitus being also in that very era. So we can write here Anaximenes, and you can write here Pythagoras. Pythagoras. That means three great philosophers. And he was a cosmologist. So the Milesian school, they started the cosmology, the study of the universe. What exactly is the cosmology? Cosmology deals with the origin of the universe. What's the reality of the universe, behind the universe? So what's the existence of the universe? Where is the genesis of the universe? And which one is responsible for the genesis of the universe? That means the cosmology. Now the theory of, I will just give that what was the difference exactly when we consider his teacher Thales and the Anaximander. As we know, Thales believed in water as the founding material of the universe. That means water. If we talk of Thales, he says that water is the basic material of this universe. And everything floats on it, like we have the earth, it floats on water. As earth is like a plate, it floats on water. That is water, the element is responsible for the creation of this universe, or you can say the earth as well. But it was the first criticism started by Anaximander, and that's why he's credited with the first basic thought that he gave to the science. That means he was more scientific when we think about, and Thales too was scientific, but he was more scientific when we think about his theories. So the first thing, he got detached with the thought of these Thales, and he introduced apeiron. He introduced apeiron. I write here apeiron. And what was this apeiron? And it was the substitute against the water, which was believed to be the basic and founding material of this earth. And apeiron was, it was according to this thales, I will show here, it was according to thales the boundless. What is boundless? So it's a boundless, I write here boundless, it's infinite. So it's boundless, it's infinite, it's what we call that, what according to Aristotle, we just give the example of Aristotle in metaphysics when he talks about Anaximander. What he says that the boundless mass, this boundless mass apeiron is responsible for the whole creation of this universe. That means it's a basic material. And what exactly is the boundless mass made of, or what exactly is this universe, is this world made of? He says in Anaximander, this world is made of the opposites. It's made of the opposites. So there is a famous theory given by Anaximander that's called the war of opposites. And what are these opposites? Opposites are that every element, there are two ways of defining these opposites. That means if we consider this the element, that it has the opposite something, or it's the opposite of something. So without opposite, this universe cannot exist according to Anaximander. That means he says that when he gives the logical criticism to this thales, he says that water is only wet. If we consider water, it's wet, and it cannot have the opposite like hot in it because it's only wet. That's water cannot be the founding material, the basic building block of this universe, but it's the stuff which is indefinite, which is infinite, which is boundless. So three qualities we can relate with boundless material, which Aristotle defines in metaphysics as one of his famous books. So I will say Aristotle's, I will rub it first. So you need to write it if you think it's to be written. So I'll make you explain all different thoughts in philosophy which were generated. All thoughts were generated by Anaximander. He rather experimented on those things, I would say. See, the basic thought which Aristotle says that what exactly is this boundless? When we are saying about indefinite or infinite or infinite, we say that there are two things related to it. One is that not demonstrable. Demonstrable, that means you cannot and can't understand. Can't understand. And who was Anaximander? He was the student of Thales. He was born in 610 BC and he died in 546. 546, I'll write here 546. So I will see another pen. He died 546. So dear students, 546 was the date he died. So the thought was previously there, and Aristotle says in metaphysics that this boundless cannot be you cannot understand this, and you cannot explain this boundless because it's boundless. It's boundless, and this boundless is responsible for the for these opposites. But now, what exactly Aristotle defines about the boundless as well? Later we'll come to different these thinkers as well. Let's first see that what was the prevailing thought in Greek before Anaximander and these what we call Thales. There was a poet, a renowned poet, a celebrated poet. His name was Homer. And not only Homer, there was another poet. I'll write here his Hesoid, and you can pronounce it like it is he said. It's he said. He said was a great poet, and he's credited with the formation of the myths in Greek along with what we call Homer. They were responsible to create the mythology, the religion of the Greeks. They were responsible, and they were in 8th and 7th century BC. 8th and 7th century BC. So what was exactly their thought? The thought of Hasid was this, that this world is created from chaos. This world is created from chaos. That means chaos was considered to be the element. That means it would have had perhaps the temporal infinity. So that means they were introduced with the thought something which cannot be explained, as the chaos cannot be explained in simpler terms. So they were very compatible. The people of the Grecian people, they were compatible with these thoughts. So the prevailing thought, the beginning of the thought, the beginning of the universe according to the Greeks, that is chaos, is the responsible factor for the whole universe. And you can understand by chaos as the element, as something which was responsible to create. This was a thought first. So this was before Thales. So Thales was very anxious to detach the new thinking from the mythology, and when he started, and this became the beginning of the philosophy. So he started with logic, he started with reason. So he was the first natural philosopher who was the cosmologist. That means he deals with the nature as everything. So we can call it as a substance monism. Substance monism. So what's substance monism? Substance monism is that there is a particular substance which is responsible for the reality of the whole world. This single reality is responsible for different things which can have a different shape. So, but according to this Anaximander, this formless, this boundless material, apeiron, giving rise to different things which can have different shapes as well, which are with forms. The formless can give the thing which is with form. So the thought generated as the chaos being the first factor of the universe, then Thales says no, it's water, the first factor of this universe, and then who says it's Anaximander who criticized the concept of water, but he introduced apeiron. So we think first that were the Grecian people compatible with Thales, or they were a bit compatible with Anaximander? So I would say here they were more compatible with the thought of Anaximander. Why? Because they believed that world is made of something which cannot be explained, and Anaximander says world is made of something which cannot be explained. So some believe that, some of the critics, some of the philosophers believe that these philosophers somehow, the Milesian philosophers, their thought, it was the bridge between the old Greek philosophy and the modern philosophy, what we call the scientific philosophy. But when I give my own criticism about Anaximander, I would say no, Anaximander was not a clever person that he would say that let the followers which will come after him, they will not criticize Anaximander, that's why he's giving the concept of apeiron, which cannot be explained. So they will be more compatible with me. No, because he had a more great vision, I would explain. That way I think that, no, apeiron is something was understood by Anaximander as a thing which was responsible. How? We'll just see now onwards that the concept of Earth, as per Thales, it is a flat, it floats on the water. What's the concept of Earth as the beginning of the philosophy by Anaximander? See, Anaximander says that it's like a cylinder. It's like a cylinder, this Earth. That means the concept is that it's not a flat, it's not elliptical, and it's a cylinder. And the diameter of this Earth, if we consider this is the diameter, if we consider this line as the diameter of this Earth, he says, Anaximander, 1/3 of this diameter, let it be 1/3, as let we think that this is 9 meters is the diameter, 9 meters, and the 3 meters he considers the height of this Earth. That means 1/3 of the diameter, or the 1/3 is responsible to be the height. And what's the top of this very Earth? He said the top of this Earth is responsible for inhabitation. that means people, that means world is, that means earth, which is responsible for the life, is the top of this earth, and it's surrounded by oceanic mass. Maybe the water, the oceanic mass surrounds this cylinder, which he says is the 1/3 as we consider the height, and then the topmost part, the upper part, is for the habitation of the people, animals, insects, plants, whole geography. That's the top. That means he had a concept of the whole earth, the concept of whole earth in front of him, in front of his imagination, what he did envisage. Now, Anaximander says now that this earth, the first thing, what Karl Popper says, the great philosopher, Popper says that that was the greatest slogan, that was the greatest statement ever in the history of humankind. Who? Karl Popper. And what was that statement? He says that this earth does not rest on something. Does not rest on something. And it floats freely. It floats freely. It is there, it floats freely. That means two concepts. Let me rub it here. The earth according to Anaximander. So we are today, if you want to have some more lessons free of cost, and you can subscribe my videos, you need to subscribe my channels in order to get free videos automatically in your account. So the thought was this, that it floats freely. Floats freely. What floats freely? This earth floats freely, and it doesn't need any support. It needs no support. It needs no support. Right here, no support. And when it floats freely, he says that these are actually the natural laws. These are actually the natural laws which balance, natural laws which balance the earth there. So this was the first great concept about the earth, that it is there in the space. It's there in the space, and planets can go beneath the earth. Planets can go. When we see in science, we have exactly the modern science says that if earth has a planet there in space, here can be another planet beneath this, on this side, on this side, on this side. That means he had this concept that planets can go beneath earth and they can float there as well. They're in the space. That means he had a great cosmic this wider dimension of his thought. What Karl Popper says, that this statement is the greatest statement against of this human history. Why at that time? Because people were very much engaged in the thoughts of Greek philosophy. That philosophy was the religious philosophy, the mythology. That was not purely the philosophy what we believe today. Now, Diogenes says that he was the student of Thales. Diogenes was the great after Christ. He was 3 centuries after Christ, and he was the biographer of the pre-Socratian philosophers, and he wrote about the philosophy. And Solitian was responsible for creating the material for Diogenes. Now, another person who says the concept of which we are just dealing with, that's indefinite. That means this world is made of the mass which is indefinite and boundless. But what Neitzsche says, Neitzsche, the great German philosopher, or you can pronounce it as Neitzsche, and Neitzsche, you can pronounce it as, he says, Neitzsche, that he was a pessimist. Who was pessimist? This Anaximander was pessimist. Pessimist. So why he was a pessimist? He gives the definition basis on that it was Anaximander who was not optimistic, who was something, I think, that he was afraid of things. Things afraid of what? He said that the whole world is made of indefinite. That with indefiniteness he related to this world, and on that basis he says that he was a pessimist, Anaximander. And exactly what Aristotle says, and yeah, we'll just have one more thought, then we go again about his theories, and what says this Burtrand Russl in the History of Western Philosophy. History of Western Philosophy. History of Western Philosophy, which is written by Burtrand Russl. He writes about the elements, and writes about that who believed that universe is this universe is what we call that this universe is um like a thing that's ruled by natural laws, that's rules by natural laws. And these natural laws, when we consider the elements like earth, water, air and fire, these elements, and Bertrand Russell says that he believed in Anaximander that these were the natural laws which balance these elements, and this also gives the balance to the whole universe. About the Anaximander, as we started with this theory of wars, this theory of war of opposites, he says that these opposites are responsible for the creation of this whole universe. That means any element there in the world, that element has its opposite. That means the first theory of opposites. Then we say another theory of opposites by Heraclitus. Later we'll see the difference between the theories of these opposites between Heraclitus and this Anaximander. Anaximander also believes that this whole universe is like, I write here, this whole universe is like an organism. And in organism, every part of this body, you need to have the balance in this part. That was first about this. And he says the balancing force, there's a breath. That breath is called pneuma. That breath is called pneuma. And he says it as a cosmic breath. Cosmic breath. Anaximander says it as the cosmic breath, which is responsible for this balance of whole organism. That means this universe is like an organism. And now see the difference. Now see the first, what we see, the astronomical thought. That's why we sometimes refer him as the father of astronomy. And this was the basic philosophy, father of astronomy. That was their philosophy started by applying geometry, by applying mathematics, by applying astronomical thought to the previous existing philosophies, and they testified their philosophies, they rejected the philosophies on the basis of scientific thought. So what he says that when we talk of sun, he had a great concept of sun, and he says that sun is something which is a huge mass. That means he had a clear thought of the distance of sun from the earth. When he says that this is the huge mass, he believed that this may be the far away, and far away. That's why the sun looks a very small, their point in the this universe, point in this space. That was the great concept he had about sun. And not only about sun, about the planets, about these what we have stars there in the sky. Then he had a concept that there exist these points which there we see in the night sky, they may be the bigger masses. That means he had a good concept of the whole universe, the whole cosmic universe, with reference to the astronomical studies. And not only this, that means sun is a huge mass. I write here sun as the huge mass. Sun as the huge mass believed by Anaximander. That is a different thought. Now what he devised, he had also one more great thought, which we see that in the modern science, and when we talk of Stephen Hawking, when we talk of postmodern science, they also believe that there is a plurality of the universe. That means he had a concept of the plurality of the universe. About the universe, what we say, about the plurality of the universe. Let me write here, this later, after 1 century, after 100 years of this Anaximander, there was a school of thought. They also believed like the plurality, I will say, plurality of the universe. That means when we talk about the universe, there is not only one universe, there are many worlds, many universes. So let we see the thought. We know that he lived there, that land is surrounded by the people where we see there, before him there were prophets, before him there were Abraham, before him there was Solomon, before him there was Yaqub, before him there was Adam, before him, that means the thought prevailed there in this land. That means I believe that the whole thought process somewhere links with the process of the thought and the teachings of prophets, and maybe they did not believe the whole teachings of prophet because of the jealousy factor, because of the ego factor. Maybe people would believe that they borrowed the thoughts of the previous prophets, so maybe they had to introduce some new concepts, including the basic thought of the philosophy, basic philosophy, religious philosophy given by the prophets, which I believe you don't find these things in the books, because they have separated these things and they have only discussed about their thought only. So plurality of the universe, it was not the concept of only them, because there were two classes. One was of atomists and another was Epicurean philosophy. Yes, one was this atomists, and we have Democrats as the founder of that philosophy, and later you see that Epicurean, also material atomist, what we call, and Epicurean philosophy. They believed also the plurality of this universe, and they were after 100 years, after 1 century of Anaximander. But what was the basic difference? That this plurality of the universe, and we call that infinity of the worlds. They believed in the term like infinity of the worlds. Infinity of the worlds. So this infinity of the worlds was believed by them, and they say that worlds disappear, worlds are created, worlds disappear, worlds are created and disappear. When we come to Epicurean philosophy or the Stoicist philosophy, the Hellenistic philosophy, we'll study there in detail these concepts in detail. And we have also the thought devised by this Anaximander, which became the responsible factor of many scientists, and they thought about the evolution of this universe, evolution of the creatures on the earth, mainly the human beings he talks about. What he talks about, he talks something about that. He doesn't talk about the full evolutionary change of the human beings, but he says that the earth had a very harsh climate. When we talk about earth, in the previous days, billions of years before, he said there was water only, and in water there were big fishes. And there was a big fish in this water, and in the mouth of that fish, the humans were survived. That means fish was responsible to give support. Fish was responsible for human survival, So what was this thought? That in the mouth of fish, the humans resided there for a long period of time, till the harsh climate, till the harsh conditions on the earth, those got, I would say, minimized, and one day what happened, that the fish bursted, or we can say that the fish vomited, we can say like this, or bursted, and the humans came out. That means first production was the fish, humans came out and they came on land. Humans came out and they came on the land, and then he says that then they started adopting themselves on the land till they got adopted with these harsh conditions, and then they started their life on this earth. So this was the first basic thought he gave in the evolutionary process. At least he thought about the evolution of this, and where was the first habitat of the humans, that was the fish, and they were just inside for a long period of time. That means they were also survived by the nature, because he says that everything, every intervention in this nature is because of the natural laws, So not only this, in this philosophy, when the scientific thought was adopted, he gave the concept of what we call that gnomon. He gave the concept of gnomon. It's a great concept also, devised by Anaximander. And what was this gnomon? Gnomon was, I will just see, it's a geometry. So if you are well read in mathematics and geometry, that's why I always say that if you are good at mathematics, you need to study philosophy, otherwise you need to be a student of the philosophy. So it's a flat disk here, which was used by Babylonians, and Babylonians had a concept of how to say the daytime. They used this factor of gnomon. It was something to draw right angles like this. If we just draw the parallelogram, having opposite sides of the parallelogram, they are equal. So if we cut the parallelogram from this very corner, and it will become like this, like this. So this L-shaped was devised, and he introduced it to the Greeks. This L-shaped element or L-shaped thing that was called to be gnomon. This was a blade, this was edge blade, and later it had different shapes, metallic shapes, and made of different things, whatever. So this gnomon, when it was fixed to this blade, this gnomon, or you just go like this, you make it to become. See, the shadow of this gnomon, and you just dial numbers on this dial, what we call as sundial. So sundial was introduced, it was later modified, and the concept was given by what we call this ANAXIMANDER. Sundial gives the timing of the day. So what's the daytime this time, what's the timing this time, that means the shadow. Which shadow, when the sun moves, the shadow differs, and sometimes the shadow is here, the sun goes with the movement, shadow is here, shadow is here, shadow is here, shadow is here, shadow is here. This was the system which was used to say the daytime, and let me say our today's lecture was about Anaximander. Anaximander was the student of Thales, and also believed that his students were Anaximenes and Pythagoras. We'll study later, but Pythagoras, he had a different thought, he had a criticism of this. Even Anaximenes did criticize his master, and they were from milesia, they were from Milesian school, they were Ionian Greek philosophers, and he was born and was contemporary of Thales, and he is thought to be the student of Thales. He had a concept of this boundless mass as the origin of this universe, and boundless mass is ruled by the natural laws. There is element which has opposed everything, and this boundless is a formless, it's a boundless, it has no form. Like we do the example, if you have the flour, or if you have the flour, flour is used to make the bread. So flour is the formless, but bread is with the form. We can have different shapes of the bread. That was, he had a concept of formless, boundless, infinite, indefinite thing. What Aristotle says, this indefinite, and it's very intelligible. You cannot understand, you cannot demonstrate this intelligible, what Anaximander says. And then we have Nietzsche's quotes about what he writes in his books about that he was a pessimist, Anaximander. The Karl Popper says it was the greatest scientific statement that the Earth is at rest, and it's the center of the universe given by Anaximander in that age, and also the planets, everything floats downwards beneath Earth. Earth doesn't stand on anything. That was the greatest statement. And another is plurality of this universe, and the theory of war of opposites is the greatest concept, and also the gnomon concept. You can have the gnomon introduced to Greeks from the Babylonian, he did say. So he was a philosopher. He was also responsible for introducing the geography of this map of the world. So before this we had the map of the Greeks, map of the land which is related to Greek or near to Greek. We had the map of them, but he was the first person. He gave the whole map of the world on the technical basis, on the rational basis, on the scientific basis. In a lecture, we had also one lecture that's a map and this geographical factor, map and the scientific way of making it by Anaximander. So you can note my address, bukharhamid786@gmail.com. I hope you'll subscribe my videos in order to get more videos free of cost. If you think that you need to study philosophy, this Greek Western philosophy, so you need to subscribe my videos. Do subscribe my videos. See you in our next lecture. Till then, goodbye.